The city was covered in cold fog as night slowly fell. Street lights flickered weakly, fighting against the icy wind that blew through every corner. Cars passed quickly, people walked fast, and nobody stopped to look around. Everyone wanted to reach home where warm rooms and hot food waited for them. But far away from all this comfort, a small girl walked alone down the empty street. Her name was Lila, a 9-year-old homeless girl with big sad eyes and messy hair that hung over her face. Her clothes were thin, old, and too small for her. Her shoes had holes, and every step made her feet colder. She held her arms around her chest, trying to keep herself warm, but the wind still found its way into her bones. She had not eaten for 2 days. Her stomach growled again and again, but there was nothing she could do. She had searched in garbage bins earlier, but even those were empty tonight. She walked slowly, dragging her feet, her small breath visible in the freezing air. Lila whispered to herself, "I just want a little food, please." She looked around in the cold, but no one looked back at her. People avoided her. Some crossed the street when they saw her coming. Others looked at her with annoyance, as if she was a problem blocking their way. She was too tired to care. Then she saw something. Across the street, warm yellow light shined from a large restaurant window. The glass was fogged on the inside because it was warm and lively in there. Through the window, Lila could see people laughing, eating hot soup, fresh bread, and warm meals that smelled like heaven. Her mouth watered. Her heart beat faster. She pressed her small hand against the cold window and watched a family share a big bowl of pasta. A waiter brought a plate full of hot fries to another table. Lila felt tears forming in her eyes. She sniffed and wiped them with her sleeve. She whispered, "If only, just a little." Her body moved on its own. She walked toward the restaurant door, stopping each time a customer entered or came out. She waited until the entrance was clear. Her stomach hurt painfully now. She felt dizzy from hunger. Finally, she pushed the door open and stepped inside. The warm air hit her face immediately. It felt like stepping into another world. The smell of food made her head spin. People talked loudly, dishes clattered, and the whole place felt alive. No one noticed her at first because she was small and quiet. Lila kept her head down. She moved near the counter where sandwiches and pastries were displayed. Her eyes locked on a small sandwich. It was simple: bread, cheese, and a piece of chicken. But to her it looked like a feast. Her hands shook. Her heart pounded hard in her chest. She looked left, then right, then back at the sandwich. No one was watching. She slowly reached out her trembling hand and picked up the sandwich. For a moment she felt hope. She held it close to her chest, ready to run outside. But before she could move, a loud voice exploded behind her. "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" Lila froze instantly. The sandwich nearly fell from her hands. Her whole body felt like ice. She turned slowly and saw a tall, angry restaurant manager walking toward her. His eyebrows were pulled together, his eyes full of anger. People in the restaurant stopped talking and turned to look. Whispering started among the customers. "That girl stole something. Oh my God, she's homeless. This is unbelievable." Lila backed away, shaking. I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm hungry." The manager raised his voice even higher. "Hungry? That's no excuse to steal from a respectable restaurant. Put that back right now." Lila gasped and held the sandwich even tighter. Tears filled her eyes. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Her fear made her chest hurt. The manager moved closer and reached for her arm. But before he could touch her, a deep, calm voice suddenly filled the air. "Stop. Don't touch her." Everyone in the restaurant turned toward the entrance. A tall man in a dark suit and long coat stood there. His presence was powerful, his expression serious, his eyes sharp. He looked like someone important, someone used to being obeyed. That man was Adrian Cole, the billionaire owner of several companies in the city. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him as the cold wind rushed in for a moment. The manager swallowed nervously. "Sir, she stole from us." Adrian didn't look angry. He looked shocked and concerned. His eyes fell on Lila, her thin body, her dirty clothes, her terrified face, and her hands gripping the sandwich as if it was her only reason to live. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he walked closer and knelt down to Lila's height. His voice softened. "Little one, why did you take that?" Lila looked up slowly. Her lips trembled. A single tear fell from her eye. I was hungry." "I'm sorry," she whispered. Adrian felt something inside him break. The whole restaurant waited in silence. What would a billionaire do to a homeless girl who stole? Punish her? Call the police? Throw her out? No one expected what he was about to do. No one imagined how this moment would change all their lives forever. The restaurant was silent. Every eye watched Adrian and the small homeless girl standing in front of him. The manager looked worried now, and the other customers whispered among themselves. No one knew what the billionaire would do next. Adrian stayed kneeling in front of Lila. He spoke in a soft, gentle voice, so different from the loud, angry tone of the manager. "Tell me, how long has it been since you last ate?" Lila looked down at the floor. She quietly whispered, 2 days? Adrian's heart tightened. 2 days? A child this small, starving on the streets, stealing because she had no other choice. The manager interrupted harshly, "Sir, this girl is a thief. We should call the police right now. We cannot let people take food for free. This is a business." Adrian slowly stood up and looked straight into the manager's eyes. "Did she steal money?" Adrian asked calmly. "And no," the manager replied. "Did she steal anything expensive?" The manager hesitated. "Just a small sandwich." Adrian raised one eyebrow. "So you want to call the police on a starving child over a small sandwich?" The manager suddenly looked embarrassed. He didn't answer. Adrian turned toward the cashier and said, "How much is the sandwich?" "Only $3, sir." Adrian took out his wallet, black, simple, and elegant. He pulled out a $100 bill and placed it on the counter. "This is for the sandwich," he said. "And for any food she wants to eat tonight." The cashier's eyes widened. The manager swallowed nervously. Lila looked confused. She held the sandwich like it was a treasure. People in the restaurant began whispering. "Wow, he's really helping her. I didn't expect that. That poor girl, she must be so hungry." Adrian turned back to Lila and said softly, "It's okay. Eat it. You're safe." Lila hesitated. She looked at him carefully, still unsure if she would get in trouble. Then she slowly raised the sandwich and took a small bite. Her eyes widened. She took another bite, faster this time. Then another. Within seconds she was eating as if she hadn't tasted food in years. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she chewed. Adrian watched her with a sad expression. Something about this child touched him deeply. He spoke again kindly, "Do you have anyone? A family? A place to sleep?" Lila stopped eating for a moment. Her voice was soft, almost breaking. I have no one. I sleep under a bridge." Adrian felt a sharp pain in his chest. For a moment he saw his younger self, alone, scared, hungry. He remembered the nights when he had nothing. He knew exactly how this felt. He sat down at the table beside her. "Eat slowly," he said. "You're safe now." The manager approached carefully. "Sir, what should we do with her?" Adrian looked up sharply. "Do? You do nothing. She is my guest." Everyone gasped. The manager stepped back. Lila stared at Adrian with confusion. "She guessed?" she whispered. "Yes," Adrian said kindly. "Tonight you will not be on the street." Lila's small hands shook again, not from fear this time but from disbelief. Nobody had ever called her a guest before. Nobody had ever defended her. Nobody had ever cared what happened to her. Adrian looked around the restaurant and saw people watching. Some looked guilty, others surprised. He spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "If a child is stealing food, the problem is not the child. It is the world around her." The restaurant fell silent again. Adrian then looked back at Lila and asked gently, "Do you want something else to eat? Maybe soup, or warm bread?" Lila nodded shyly. She didn't speak because she felt a lump in her throat. Adrian raised his hand and signaled the waiter. "Bring her one warm meal. And something sweet. Maybe cake." Lila's eyes widened at the word cake. She had never eaten cake in her life. The waiter nodded quickly and ran to the kitchen. Adrian leaned closer to Lila and said, "You don't have to be afraid anymore. I'm here." Lila looked at him with big teary eyes. She had no idea why this rich man was being so kind, but she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. A tiny spark of hope in her small heart. But she didn't know. This was only the beginning of a story that would change her life forever. Lila sat at the small table, her hands still shaking slightly. She held the half-eaten sandwich close, afraid someone might take it away. Adrian sat across from her, calm and patient, as if he had all the time in the world. The restaurant waiter soon arrived with a tray full of warm food. Steam floated into the air, carrying the smell of fresh bread, hot soup, and soft cake. The waiter placed everything gently in front of Lila, avoiding eye contact because he still felt guilty for judging her earlier. "This is for you," Adrian said softly. "Eat slowly. Your stomach needs time." Lila nodded, though her hands trembled again. She lifted the bowl of soup and sipped it. Her eyes closed as the warmth touched her tongue. It felt like the first real comfort she had experienced in months. She took another spoonful. And another. Her body relaxed as the warm soup spread through her cold, weak body. Adrian watched quietly. He didn't rush her. He didn't speak much. He just made sure she felt safe. After finishing the soup, Lila picked up the piece of bread. She smelled it first, soft, warm, buttery. She took a small bite, then larger bites. Her shoulders loosened for the first time, and she looked less like a frightened animal and more like a child again. Customers around them watched silently. Some smiled. Some looked ashamed for not helping earlier. Everyone could feel something special happening. Lila then turned her eyes to the cake, a small slice of chocolate cake with a cherry on top. Her heart raced. She had never eaten cake before. She touched it with her little finger, then quickly pulled her hand back as if she wasn't allowed. Adrian smiled gently. "It's yours. All yours." Lila took a small bite. Her eyes widened instantly. It was soft, sweet, rich. Something inside her chest warmed, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Joy. Adrian chuckled quietly when he saw her expression. "Good?" Lila nodded with her mouth full. Suddenly, tears rolled down her cheeks again. But this time, they were happy tears. I never had cake before," she whispered. Adrian's smile faded into a sad expression. "You should have had many things, Lila. A home. A family. Warm food. Safety. You deserved all of that." Lila looked down, unsure how to reply. After a moment, Adrian asked softly, "How long have you been alone?" Lila traced her finger around the plate. "Since last winter," she said quietly. "My mother, she got sick. And she never woke up." Adrian inhaled sharply. A shadow passed over his face. Memories. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Lila continued, her voice trembling. "After that, no one wanted me. I tried to sleep in shelters but they were full. So I just stayed outside." Adrian clenched his jaw. Something deep inside him twisted. Anger, not at her but at the world. At the system. At the cruelty of life. He leaned forward slightly. "You should not have gone through that alone." Lila glanced up at him, confused. "Why are you helping me?" Adrian paused. He looked toward the window where the night was growing colder and darker. Snowflakes had begun to fall, dancing in the air. "Because," he said slowly, "I know what it feels like to be hungry. To feel invisible. To think no one cares." He looked straight into her eyes. "And I promised myself, if I ever met a child going through that, I would not walk away." Lila blinked. She didn't fully understand, but she felt something new, trust. Adrian continued gently, "Lila, after we finish here, I'm not sending you back to the streets." Her spoon froze in midair. She looked up sharply. What do you mean?" Adrian folded his hands calmly. "You're coming with me." The entire restaurant went silent again. Even the waiter stopped moving. With you?" Lila whispered, her voice shaking between fear and hope. "Yes," Adrian replied. "You will not sleep under a bridge tonight. Not again. Not ever." Lila's small heart pounded fast. She didn't know if this was real. She didn't know if she should believe him. But something in his voice, kind, steady, honest, made her want to believe. "But, why me?" she asked in a tiny voice. Adrian's expression softened. "Because you deserve a chance. And because I can give it to you." Lila swallowed hard. Her eyes shimmered with tears again. Her life had been full of pain, loneliness, hunger, and suddenly this stranger was offering something she had never imagined. A future. Adrian stood up and offered his hand. "Come. When you're ready." Lila looked at his hand nervously, then at the warm food, then at the cold world outside the window. Slowly, carefully, with a trembling hand, she placed her small fingers into his. And in that moment, everything changed. Lila held Adrian's hand tightly as they walked out of the restaurant. The snow was falling slowly now, covering the streets with a thin white blanket. Cold wind touched her face, but for the first time in months she didn't feel afraid. She wasn't alone anymore. Adrian opened the door of a black luxury car. The driver stepped out and looked surprised when he saw a little girl with torn clothes and messy hair. But Adrian nodded at him calmly, giving a silent message: treat her with respect. Lila hesitated. She had never been near such a big car before. She touched the door slowly as if checking whether it was real. "It's okay," Adrian said gently. "You're safe." She climbed inside, sitting carefully on the soft leather seat. It felt like sitting on a warm cloud. She touched the seat with her cold fingers, amazed by the softness. Adrian sat beside her and closed the door. The car heater turned on, filling the space with warm air. Lila hugged herself and breathed deeply. For the first time in a long time, she felt warm. The car started moving through the snowy streets. Lila kept looking out the window, watching the city lights blur into golden lines. Everything felt new, different, almost like a dream. After a few minutes, she whispered, "Where are we going?" Adrian smiled gently. "To my home." Lila's eyes widened. "Your home? But why?" "Because you need a place to stay," he replied. "And because I promised I wouldn't leave you alone." Lila bit her lip nervously. What if someone gets angry? What if they don't want me there?" Adrian shook his head. "No one will be angry. It's my home. And I decide who is welcome." Lila didn't know what to say. She sat silently, holding onto a small piece of hope with both hands. After a long moment, Adrian spoke again. "Lila, do you go to school?" She shook her head slowly. "No. I never went." Adrian's eyes softened with sadness. "Do you want to learn?" She nodded slightly but looked away. "But school is for other kids, not for someone like me." Adrian leaned forward gently. "Lila, listen to me. You are not someone like me, or someone like them. You're you. And you deserve everything other children get." Lila stared at him. No one had ever said anything like that to her. The car drove through a private gate guarded by security. Lila's mouth opened in shock as the huge house came into view. It was more like a palace. Tall windows, bright lights, and a long driveway covered with snow. She whispered, This is where you live?" Adrian nodded with a small smile. "Yes. And tonight it's your home too." Her heart beat fast. She pressed her hands against the window, staring at the beautiful place that looked like something from a fairy tale. When the car stopped, Adrian stepped out and offered his hand again. Lila took it, still shaking from the surprise. Inside, the warmth hit her instantly. The house smelled like vanilla and fresh flowers. A woman in her late 50s walked toward them. She had soft eyes and a kind smile. "Welcome home, sir," she said to Adrian. Then she noticed Lila. "And who is this sweet child?" Adrian placed a gentle hand on Lila's shoulder. "This is Lila. She's staying with us." The woman nodded warmly. "My name is Maria. Don't worry, dear. We'll take good care of you." Lila felt shy, almost scared again. But Maria's soft voice made her relax a little. Adrian turned to her. "Lila, Maria has been with me for many years. She's like family." Maria smiled. "Come, dear. Let's get you warm and clean." She kneeled down to Lila's height. "Would you like a hot bath and clean clothes?" Lila hesitated but nodded slowly. She had forgotten what a warm bath felt like. Maria guided her gently down the hallway. Lila turned back for a moment and looked at Adrian. "Are you coming back?" she asked softly, afraid he might disappear. Adrian nodded with a reassuring smile. "I'm not going anywhere. I promise." Lila felt a strange warmth in her chest. A feeling she had never known. Trust. As she followed Maria, Adrian stood in the hallway, watching her small figure disappear around the corner. His eyes softened, but his heart carried a heavy memory, one he had tried to bury for years. He whispered to himself, "I couldn't save one child, but maybe I can save her." The story was far from over. A promise had been made. A life was about to change. And Adrian knew, this little girl had just walked into his world for a reason. After Lila went with Maria to take a warm bath, Adrian walked into his study room. The house was quiet, the snow falling gently outside the large window. But inside his heart, a storm was rising. He sat in his leather chair, leaned forward, and covered his face with both hands. Saving Lila. Helping her. Bringing her home. It all reminded him of something he tried to forget for many years. A memory he never spoke about. A memory that hurt him every time he breathed. Just then the door opened softly. Maria stepped inside with a gentle smile. "She's taking a bath now," she said. "She was scared at first, but I stayed with her. She's feeling better." Adrian nodded silently. Maria watched him for a moment, then said softly, "You care about her. I can see that." Adrian sighed deeply and stared at the floor. "Maria, she reminds me of someone." Maria raised an eyebrow. She had known Adrian since he was a young man. She could read him like a book. "Is it her?" she asked carefully. Adrian nodded slowly. Maria sat across from him. "It has been many years, Adrian. But pain like that doesn't disappear." He closed his eyes as the memory came back like a wave. Years ago, Adrian was not always a billionaire. He grew up in a small town and lived a simple life. His father worked long hours and his mother worked in a bakery. Adrian spent most of his time with one person, his little sister, Emily. Emily was only 7, full of smiles, full of life. She had curly brown hair and big bright eyes. She followed Adrian everywhere and called him her hero. But their life changed one winter night. They were walking home after school when a storm hit. The wind became strong, snow fell fast, and the streets turned white quickly. Emily held Adrian's hand tightly. "Are we lost?" she asked, her small voice shaking. Adrian tried to stay calm. No, we just need to keep walking." But the storm grew worse. He couldn't see the road. He couldn't feel his fingers. Emily's steps became slower and slower. "Adrian," she whispered weakly, "I'm cold." He lifted her into his arms and kept walking, but he was just a young boy and the storm was too strong. They reached an empty road, no cars, no people, just endless snow. Emily's breathing became soft, too soft. "Stay awake, Emily," he cried. "Don't sleep. Please." But she didn't answer. A passing car finally stopped and helped them. But it was too late. Emily didn't survive the cold. Adrian blamed himself for years. He believed he should have protected her. He should have been stronger. He should have saved her. And now, every time he saw a child alone in the cold, every time he saw fear and hunger in their eyes, the memory returned like a knife to his heart. Maria listened quietly as he told the story again, even though she had heard it once many years ago. "She was just a child," Adrian whispered. "And I failed her." Maria leaned forward. "Adrian, you were a child too. It was not your fault." Adrian shook his head. "But I could not save her, and now when I saw Lila in the restaurant, freezing, starving, alone, I couldn't walk away. Not again." Maria placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Maybe helping Lila is not about fixing the past. Maybe it's about healing your heart." Adrian looked toward the hallway where Lila had gone. "She has no one, Maria. No family. No warm bed. No food. No chance. And now?" Maria asked softly. Adrian took a deep breath. "Now, she has me." For the first time that night, Maria smiled. "She is a brave child," Maria said. "She never asked for help even though she needed it. That shows strength." "Yes," Adrian whispered, "but children shouldn't have to be strong all the time." Just then the door opened slowly. Lila stood there wearing clean pajamas Maria had given her. Her hair was washed and brushed. She looked like a completely different child, still small, still fragile, but no longer hiding behind dirt and fear. She held the door nervously. "Sir, can I come in?" Adrian stood up immediately. "Of course, Lila. Come." She walked slowly into the room, her bare feet soft on the carpet. She looked shy but calmer now. "Thank you," she whispered. "For the bath. For the warm clothes. For everything." Adrian smiled softly. "You don't need to thank me. You deserve safety." Lila stepped closer, her voice trembling. Maria said, "I can sleep in a room. A real room. With a bed. Is that true?" Adrian nodded. "Yes, Lila. That room is yours." Her eyes filled with tiny tears. "No one ever gave me a room before," she said quietly. Those simple words hit Adrian harder than anything. He kneeled down so he was at her level. "Lila, from today onward you will not sleep in the cold again. I promise you." She looked at him carefully as if trying to see if he was lying. "Do you mean it?" she whispered. "Yes," he said. "I will protect you." Lila slowly placed her small hand in his, trusting him, believing him. And in that moment, Adrian felt something heal inside him, just a little. Maria watched from the corner with a smile. She could already see it. This was not just kindness. This was a connection, a bond, a new beginning. And none of them knew yet. Lila carried a secret that would change Adrian's life forever. That night, after Adrian showed Lila her new room, she stood at the doorway for a long time. She looked at the soft bed, the warm blankets, the small lamp glowing next to it. Everything felt too beautiful, too gentle, almost unreal. She slowly walked in and touched the blanket with her fingertips. It felt warm, safe, something she had never felt before. Maria helped her lie down. "Try to sleep, dear," Maria said kindly. Lila nodded, but her eyes were unsure. When Maria left, Lila sat up again. Her hands shook a little as she reached into her pocket. She pulled out a tiny folded paper, old, wrinkled, and almost torn. She kept it close to her chest like a treasure. The letter. Her mother's letter. The only thing she had left. Meanwhile, Adrian stood in the hallway outside, staring at the closed door of Lila's room. Something about her eyes, something in her silence, told him she was hiding pain much deeper than hunger. Maria came beside him. "She will sleep," Maria assured him. "But there is something heavy in her heart." Adrian nodded slowly. "I know. She has seen things a child should never see. And there is more," Maria added softly. "She hesitates before trusting anyone. That means someone broke her trust." Adrian clenched his jaw. That will not happen again. He walked to his study, but he couldn't concentrate. Every few minutes he found himself thinking about the small girl sleeping in the next room. He finally said to himself, tomorrow I'll ask her everything." But the night still had something to reveal. Back in Lila's room, Lila opened the tiny folded paper with shaky hands. The ink was faded, but she had read it so many times that she knew every word by heart. Her mother had written it on the last night she saw her. Lila whispered the words softly in the dark. "My little Lila. If you ever feel alone, look for the man with the silver watch. He knew your father. He will protect you." Lila wiped her eyes and continued reading. "His name is Adrian." She held her breath. "Find him if life becomes too hard. He promised your father something long ago." The letter ended there. Lila pressed the paper to her heart. She had found him by accident. Or maybe, fate brought her to him. But she didn't know how to tell him. She didn't know if he would believe her. Would he be angry? Would he send her away? Would he think she was lying? Fear wrapped around her chest. The world had never been kind. What if he changed too? Suddenly she heard soft footsteps. The door opened a little. Adrian stepped in quietly. "Lila? Are you awake?" Startled, she quickly hid the letter under her pillow. I'm not sleepy," she whispered. He walked closer, his voice gentle. "Are you scared?" She hesitated, then nodded weakly. "I know this place is new," Adrian said. "But you're safe here." Lila looked at him carefully. She wanted to tell him everything. She wanted to ask about her father, ask why his name was in her mother's letter, ask why her mother trusted him. But fear held her back. Adrian sat on the edge of the bed. "Lila," he said softly, "if you ever want to tell me anything at all, I will listen. And I will not judge you." Her eyes filled with tears. Her voice trembled. But she stayed silent. Adrian didn't pressure her. He simply smiled and tucked the blanket around her. "Good night, Lila," he said. "I'm right here if you need me." He turned off the light and stepped out of the room. Lila watched him walk away. Her heart beat faster. Should she tell him the truth? Should she show him the letter? Or wait? She wasn't ready. Not yet. Later that night, Adrian returned to his study, unable to sleep. He opened a drawer and took out a silver watch. He held it in his hand, staring at it with pain in his eyes. It belonged to his best friend, a man he had made a promise to, a promise he had never been able to fulfill. Years ago the man disappeared, leaving behind a little daughter. Adrian whispered, "I'm sorry. I couldn't find her." He didn't know. She was sleeping just a few rooms away. And she carried the same letter he had been searching for. The truth was slowly emerging. The storm was building. Nothing would be the same after tomorrow. Lila had a secret that could change both of their lives forever. The morning sun shone softly through the curtains of Adrian's house. The snow outside sparkled like tiny diamonds. The world looked peaceful, but inside the house, two hearts were filled with confusion, fear, and questions waiting to be answered. Lila woke up early. It was the first time in months she had slept on a warm bed. For a moment she forgot she was safe, then she remembered where she was. Adrian's home. A place that felt almost like a dream. She sat up slowly and pulled the small folded letter from under her pillow. Her hands shook. She knew she couldn't hide it forever. Today, she had to tell him. She took a deep breath and walked out of her room. Downstairs, Adrian sat at the breakfast table with a cup of coffee. He looked tired. His eyes were red as if he hadn't slept much. When he saw Lila coming downstairs, he smiled warmly. "Good morning, Lila," he said gently. She nodded shyly. "Good morning." Maria brought a plate of pancakes for Lila. The smell made her stomach growl. She hadn't eaten breakfast like this in years. "Eat, dear," Maria said with a soft smile. But Lila didn't start eating. She stared at Adrian, her fingers tightly holding the folded paper behind her back. Her heart beat fast. Adrian noticed her silence. "Lila?" he asked softly. "Is something wrong?" She swallowed hard and took a deep breath. "I need to tell you something," she whispered. Adrian nodded calmly. "I'm listening." Her lips trembled. I have a letter, from my mother. Adrian's eyes widened slightly. May I see it? He asked. Lila hesitated, then slowly stepped forward and placed the old, worn paper into his hands. Adrian unfolded it carefully. When he saw the writing, his heart stopped. He knew that handwriting. He knew that name. With shaking hands, he read the words. Find the man with the silver watch. His name is Adrian. He promised your father he would protect you. Adrian's breath caught in his throat. His silver watch. The promise. The missing child. He looked up at Lila, shocked. Lila, he whispered, your father's name, what was it? She looked down. My father's name was Daniel. Adrian dropped the letter. Daniel. His best friend. His brother in spirit. The man he had searched for after the accident. The man who disappeared, leaving behind a daughter Adrian never found. Adrian's voice broke. Daniel, was your father? Lila nodded, tears filling her eyes. And my mother wrote this before she paused, swallowing the pain. Before she died. Adrian stood up slowly, his legs shaking. He kneeled in front of Lila, his eyes full of shock and emotion. Lila. I made a promise to your father, he said, his voice trembling. I promised him I would protect you if anything ever happened to him. Her eyes widened. You knew my father? Adrian nodded, tears escaping his eyes. He was my best friend, my closest friend. We were like brothers. And when he died, I looked for you. For years, Lila. For years I searched. But I never found you. Lila pressed her small hands against her mouth, crying softly. I thought no one cared about me, she whispered. Adrian gently held her shoulders. I cared, he said. I cared more than you know. I just didn't know where you were. And now you're here. Right in front of me. After all these years. Lila's tears fell faster. I was so scared to tell you. I thought, maybe you wouldn't want me. Adrian pulled her into a tight hug. Lila, listen to me, he said, voice breaking. I will never leave you. You are not alone anymore. You are family. Daniel trusted me with your life. And I failed to find you before, but I will not fail again. Lila's small arms wrapped around him tightly. She cried into his shoulder, letting out all the pain she had kept inside for years. Maria watched from the doorway, wiping her eyes quietly. It was clear now. Lila wasn't just a child Adrian helped. She was a child connected to his past. A child he was meant to protect. A child who finally found her rightful place. Later that evening, Adrian showed Lila the silver watch. This belonged to your father, he said softly. He wanted you to have it one day. Lila touched the watch with trembling fingers, holding it close to her heart. Thank you, she whispered. Adrian smiled warmly. I'm not just helping you anymore, Lila. From today I'm your guardian. And you're staying here.